These two vampires, who have only been around for a century, dare to challenge the originals. In response, Klaus set up a deadly banquet. To buy some time, the Salvatore brothers had no choice but to attend the banquet. After the meal, the negotiations began in earnest. Klaus made some ruthless demands. First, the Salvatore brothers must hand over the coffin, and in return, he might spare their lives. As for Elena, Klaus needed her blood. He also demanded that the Salvatore brothers leave Elena, arguing that no matter which one she fell in love with, she would ultimately be turned into a vampire.
Gentlemen, the worst thing for Elena Gilbert is the two of you.
Damon sneered, while Stefan's eyes sharpened with intensity. To buy more time, Damon pretended to be troubled and stepped outside for some air, with Elijah following close behind. Intending to have a word with Damon, not long after, they returned. Damon wanted to hear Klaus's offer of good faith. Klaus immediately said that he could guarantee Elena a life of safety and happiness, and let Matt be her husband and have a bunch of kids. Stefan, however, saw right through Klaus's ploy. You want Elena's bloodline to continue so that every century, a new doppelganger will emerge. Klaus stubbornly stuck to his tyrannical terms, but when Stefan refused, Klaus snapped his hand and thrust it into the fire. Damon tried to intervene but was quickly subdued by Elijah. Klaus then used Stefan's life to force Damon into surrendering the coffin. Damon had no choice but to comply. Klaus demanded that Elijah accompany him, promising that once he got the coffin back, he would keep his word. But not long after Damon and Elijah left, they unexpectedly returned, leaving Klaus baffled. Elijah, smiling, questioned his brother.
Well, where are your manners, brother? We forgot dessert.
What have you done?
What have you done? See, I've learned not to trust your vulgar promises, Klaus.
It turns out Elijah had learned from Klaus's betrayal. After his resurrection, he found a note left by Damon in his pocket. Damon and Elijah had a secret meeting beforehand. On the surface, this dinner seemed like a showdown between two pairs of brothers, but it was really a 3-against-1 scenario. Now, with the rest of the originals freed by Elijah, Klaus's entire family was reunited.
Finton.
Long time, brother.
This is for our mother.
You're free to go.
When the Salvatore brothers arrived at the tomb, they found Bonnie and her mother unconscious. The fourth coffin was empty. After all, Klaus is the strongest of the originals, and the 4 Mikaelson siblings couldn't do anything to him. Rebecca went on a rampage in the castle, smashing everything in sight, which hurt Klaus deeply. I built this home especially for you, he said. Klaus fears loneliness more than anything, but now the Mikaelson siblings were planning to abandon him. Rebecca even threatened to kill Elena, that backstabbing bitch, so Klaus would be left without a hybrid. Klaus was overwhelmed with anger and sorrow. He threatened, "If you dare leave me, I'll spend the next 1,000 years hunting each of you down and keeping you by my side forever, even if it's just your corpses." Yet the Mikaelson siblings remained unmoved. At that moment, the door to the living room opened. The Mikaelson siblings were left speechless when they saw who had entered. While Klaus's face was filled with fear, it was their mother, Esther. It turns out she was the one sealed in the last coffin. Esther walked right past her 4 children and headed straight for Klaus. Guilt-ridden, Klaus lowered his head, unable to face his mother.
Look at me. Do you know why I'm here?
You're here to kill me.
Klaus, you are my son. And I am here to forgive you. I want us to be a family again.
The formidable Klaus was forgiven by his mother, and the original's family was finally reunited. Rebecca found Elena to exact her revenge. "The knife you stabbed in my back, it hurt." Just as Rebecca was about to deliver a fatal bite, Elijah stepped in to stop her. It turned out that their mother had laid down 3 rules for the originals. They were not to kill recklessly in the town. The next day, Elena relayed the news to the Salvatore brothers. It turned out the last coffin contained the ancestor of witches, their mother, Esther. What a colossal blunder. The Salvatore brothers had thought the coffin was the key to defeating Klaus, but instead, they unleashed an even more powerful enemy. Just then, the doorbell rang. When Elena opened the door, she found an invitation from the Mikaelson family. Damon fumed in anger.
It's not bad enough they're moving into town, now they want a housewarming gift?
On the back of the invitation was a note from Esther, specifically requesting to meet with Elena. Before Elena could decide, the Salvatore brothers started bickering over their differing opinions. Damon didn't want Elena to be put in any danger, but Stefan believed that Bonnie's dreams had been sending a clear message that Esther was the key to defeating Klaus, so they needed to see what was really going on.
I should find out what she wants.
You can't protect yourself.
Okay, fine, then I'll go.
You've pissed off enough originals to last a lifetime. I'll go.
Hey!
End of story.
Meanwhile, the Mikaelson family was preparing for the evening's ball. Klaus and Rebecca got into another argument over Elena, with Cole seizing the opportunity to go after Klaus. It was clear that the Mikaelson family was far from united. Finally, Esther intervened to calm their dispute. Klaus felt wronged, complaining that his siblings were all excluding him. Esther patiently comforted him. Klaus was confused, thinking that of all people, his mother should hate him the most. Esther told Klaus that during her 1,000 years of imprisonment in the spiritual realm, she spent every moment thinking about reuniting with her family. Klaus was deeply moved by his mother's words.
Who are you bringing to the ball this evening?
This morning, Caroline received a message from Tyler. It turns out he's been rigorously training, and once he breaks his sire bond, he'll return to Mystic Falls. Caroline felt a great sense of relief. Later, Caroline found an invitation in a gift box at her doorstep. Klaus's note was blunt and straightforward. "Dance with me, Klaus." Caroline was a bit put off, thinking, "Are we that close?" But out of curiosity, she opened the gift box, only to find a luxurious gown inside. Caroline initially had no intention of attending the ball, but when she found out that Rebecca had invited Matt as her date, she changed her mind. All of the town's elite attended the Mikaelson family's ball. The situation had shifted, leaving Mayor Lockwood feeling helpless. For the safety of the town, Carol had no choice but to greet everyone with a smile. As Damon was teasing Carol, Elena made a grand entrance in her elegant attire. The scene that followed was undoubtedly one of the most iconic moments in the Vampire Diaries.
Excuse me, Carol.
Both Salvatore brothers rushed forward, each vying to be Elena's dance partner. Who should she choose? Why not both? Caroline was running late because she was still picking out a dress. She searched through her options but couldn't find the right one. And finally, her eyes landed on the dress in the gift box. When Klaus saw Caroline, he was instantly captivated. He immediately approached to greet her, but Caroline ignored him. The Mikaelson family made their grand entrance together, exuding noble elegance, with Elijah acting as their spokesperson to toast the guests. Esther took one look at Elena in the crowd and then returned to her room. Elena was about to go meet her, but Damon stopped her. With Damon's mix of persuasion and insistence, Elena had no choice but to dance with him first, while poor Stefan watched from the sidelines. Under Klaus's relentless persistence, Caroline danced with him too, but her gaze remained fixed on Matt the entire time. Klaus didn't mind. He kept talking, trying to capture Caroline's attention. When the guests began to switch partners, Stefan finally got his chance to dance with Elena, but she quickly led him out of the ballroom. Elena hadn't given up on her meeting with Esther. She wanted Stefan to keep Damon distracted. Elena and Stefan were only gone for a short while before Damon came looking for them. Suddenly, Stefan ambushed him, snapping his brother's spine. As Elena reached the second floor, Elijah found her. Elijah had been uneasy about how easily his mother forgave Klaus. He couldn't shake his suspicion, so he asked Elena to relay whatever Esther told her. Elena agreed. In the room, Esther was waiting with her eldest son, Finn. When she saw Elena arrive for the appointment, Esther first cast a spell to block out sound and ordered Finn to guard the door. It was clear that Esther was being extremely cautious. Elena was curious whether Esther was a ghost or still human. Esther explained that she had created the dark creatures known as vampires, and for that, she was punished by the Dark Witch. Her body was sealed in a coffin, while her soul was banished to the spiritual realm. The Dark Witch, as it turns out, was Bonnie's ancestor. Esther's resurrection was for the purpose of destroying her sons. It turns out that Esther organized this ball to gather the 5 originals together, and she planned to perform a ritual that required a single drop of the doppelganger's blood. Esther planned to use the toast tonight to link the lives of the originals together, so that if one were to die, they all would. Even Klaus, with his immortality, wouldn't escape this fate.
I love my family, Elena, but they are an abomination.
Meanwhile, Klaus was busy pursuing Caroline, who was curious why he had chosen her as his dance partner.
I fancy you.
Many people had criticized Klaus's love as being a bit rushed. In truth, Klaus resonated with Caroline's experiences. They had both been despised by their parents, but but Caroline remained strong and optimistic. Having personally experienced that kind of despair, Klaus deeply appreciated Caroline's resilience and saw her as someone truly radiant. Klaus's confession was straightforward, without any elaborate words, but Caroline's heart was still with Tyler. On the other side, Rebecca's choice of Matt as her dance partner was indeed motivated by ill intentions. She and her brother Cole planned to make a meal out of Matt, but unexpectedly, a small, kind gesture from Matt touched Rebecca. To protect Matt, Rebecca suggested they return to the ball, a move that didn't go unnoticed by Cole. When Elena returned to the ball, Elijah quickly sought her out to ask about her conversation with Esther. He was suspicious of his mother's motives, but Elena lied to him once again. Esther had tampered with the drinks, and then proposed a toast. Unknowingly, the originals were deceived by their mother. Elena felt bad about betraying Elijah's trust. Later, Klaus showed Caroline his collection of famous paintings. Caroline joked, "Did you steal these from the Louvre?" Klaus laughed and admitted he did. He also revealed that the bracelet he gave Caroline once belonged to a princess. Caroline was surprised to discover Klaus's deep appreciation for art. It turns out Klaus wasn't lying, he had traveled to many places and found solace in art. Caroline felt a bit down, realizing she hadn't seen much of the world.
I'll take you. Wherever you want. Rome. Paris. Tokyo.
Wow.
She then brought up Tyler, which made Klaus visibly unhappy. Though he remained a perfect gentleman. "We've had a pleasant evening, but it's time for you to leave," he said. Caroline, however, seized on Klaus's vulnerability and attacked him with her words. When Damon woke up, he immediately sought out his brother for a confrontation, only to be told by Stefan that it was all Elena's idea. Stefan reminded his brother, "Your need to control Elena is getting so strong that it's clouding your ability to make the right decisions." Damon had no comeback. When Damon found Elena, she was in a terrible mood and ended up breaking his heart once again. She told him that he was too impulsive, always playing the hero, and in the end, ruining everything.
I care too much. I'm a liability.
Meanwhile, Cole ignored his sister's warning and insisted on messing with Matt. This scene happened to catch Damon's eye, and already fuming with anger from earlier, he finally found an outlet for his frustration. Damon shoved Cole down the stairs, then pinned him down and started beating him mercilessly. Damon's anger fueled his strength, and Cole, despite being one of the originals, couldn't fight back. Everyone rushed over upon hearing the commotion, even in the face of Stefan's rebuke, Elena's disappointed gaze, and the oppressive feeling of the originals. Damon remains fearless. When Caroline returned home, she received another gift from Klaus, which made Caroline speechless. She even spoke harshly to the guy, but he still wouldn't give up. But when Caroline opened Klaus's gift, her expression froze. This time, it wasn't some expensive jewelry, but a painting. Caroline's emotions were conflicted. Klaus was being so gentle, but her heart already belonged to someone else. After the Mikaelson family's ball ended, Esther began to execute her plan, using Finn's blood to cast a spell. Finn was deeply longing for death. He has been sealed away for more than 900 years and loathes his identity as a vampire. Finn's blood spread, forming the shape of a white oak tree, linking the names of the originals together.
You are one.
As Stefan escorted Elena home, she told him about Esther's plan. Elena felt guilty for deceiving Elijah. If she had a choice, she would only want to get rid of Klaus. Stefan reassured her, "The originals are all guilty beyond redemption, they've only brought you darkness." This should have been the perfect moment for Stefan to win Elena back, but he hesitated. Instead, he reminded Elena to let Damon know she was safe. Just as Stefan was about to leave, Elena stopped him. Elena had already realized that Stefan had regained his humanity long ago, and that he had been pretending to be cold and indifferent.
I feel everything.
Elena, stop.
I'm not going to stop, Stefan, because I don't believe that you feel nothing.
What, you think I want to be this person?
Stefan felt guilty and full of self-reproach. He believed he didn't deserve Elena, so he chose to let go and quietly watch over her. Rebecca sought out Matt to apologize. Her attitude was extremely humble, but Matt told her to stop bothering him. A downcast Damon, at the bar trying to drown his sorrows, happened to witness the scene. He approached and sarcastically mocked Rebecca. Two wounded souls ended up finding comfort in each other. This morning, both Salvatore brothers gave Elena the cold shoulder. Stefan wasn't answering her calls because he didn't know how to face her. Damon, on the other hand, was cold and dismissive over the phone, mainly because there was another woman lying in his bed. Elena had no choice but to go see him in person, only to discover Damon and Rebecca's indiscretion. Rebecca was smug, while Damon remained utterly calm. Elena assumed Damon was doing this to get back at her. She comes to tell Damon that Esther is plotting to get rid of the 5 originals. Damon remarked that this was fantastic news, but Elena felt guilty. Elijah shouldn't die. In fact, she came to seek support, but she didn't expect Damon to not understand her. Elena then brought up Rebecca's safety, but Damon didn't care about Rebecca's fate at all. Damon knows Elena too well. She always acts emotionally.
Don't do anything to screw this up, Elena.
Why are you doing this?
He's right, Klaus has to die, they all do.
The Salvatore brothers united their front. Elena sought Bonnie's help, asking if there was a way to save Elijah while still getting rid of Klaus. But Bonnie informed Elena that there was no time left, as tonight was a full moon, and Esther planned to use the celestial event to cast her spell. Meanwhile, Elijah noticed his mother's little ritual burnt sage. Elijah shared his concerns with his sister, but Rebecca was unfazed. She suggested that Elijah go straight to their brother Finn, who had been spending all his time with their mother and should know what was going on. But Elijah didn't trust Finn, knowing that Finn despised being a vampire. To get to the bottom of things, Elijah sought out Elena, making her feel extremely guilty. They went out for a walk together, and Elijah told her a lot of secrets about the town, such as the fact that the underground of the town was full of tunnels, which was a gift from nature to help them avoid the werewolves during the full moon. Elena didn't want to face Elijah any longer, but Elijah saw right through her lies. It turns out that on the night of the ball, Elijah had already caught her deception by listening to her heartbeat, but he didn't call her out on it out of gentlemanly respect. Burdened with guilt, Elena finally confessed Esther's plan. Elijah wasn't surprised. His mother intended to destroy the monsters she had created, but Elijah wasn't going to sit idly by. With one powerful stomp, Elijah revealed an entrance to a cavern. There was indeed a tunnel system under the town, and Elijah wrapped Elena in his arms and jumped into the cave. Damon couldn't reach Elena, so he called Alaric, but Alaric was on a date with Dr. Fell and didn't want to be disturbed. After hanging up, Damon noticed that the half-filled glass of blood he'd left for his brother hadn't been touched. He then realized that Stefan had not only regained his humanity but was also abstaining from blood. For the past few days, Alaric and Dr. Fell had been investigating the serial murders. They suspected a vampire was behind them, especially since Alaric had been stabbed and had no memory of it. Little did they know that their conversation was overheard by the Mikaelson brothers. Meanwhile, Bonnie and her mother arrived at the witch's ancestral home, where Esther and Finn had been waiting for them. It turned out that Esther's magic power was obtained through Bonnie and her mother. In other words, Bonnie's ancestors acted as a kind of battery, and Esther needed Bonnie and her mother to channel that immense power.
Tonight, my sisters, we shall bring peace to the spirits of nature that we serve, and for that, I thank you.
Down in the tunnels, there was no signal. There was no signal in the tunnel, and Elena tried to find an exit, but Rebecca showed up, sent by Elijah to keep an eye on her. Elsewhere, Elijah confronted the Salvatore brothers, threatening Elena's life to force them to stop Esther. Esther's power comes from Bonnie's family. The simplest way to break it is to sever that bloodline, which means that either Bonnie or her mother, one of them, must die.
So we all have our timeline. I suggest you get started.